Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and today we are going to be painting. And oh my gosh, I just realized I didn't bring my watercolor example over here to show you. We have picture in picture, so it's okay. We're gonna be painting a really sun hat that's very splashy, splashy. There is a traceable to this. It is posted in the comments. It is on the Art Sherpa website under the traceable segment. And I think we're in the group. So I put that everywhere so you can find it. If drawing is not your thing, and I'll talk to you about how you would use that and transfer that on the canvas. We're going to be painting on 140-pound paper, which is also 300 cram, and we're going to do that on a watercolor block. And that is going to help us do some really fun wet effects and not have too bad a buckling. Also, we're going to be using some straw for splashy, splashy blow effects. But I'm going to show you two ways to do it. One way to where you like plan it out, and then we do this really cool bleed through. And hopefully John's RoboCam is here to capture that.
Yeah, I think so. I think I have this camera,
There we go.
this
See picture in
camera.
picture.
Oh,
We're
there.
painting her today.
This camera.
So I'm really loving these watercolor lessons. Hopefully you're seeing them on IGTV in
There
the
you go,
vertical
cinnamon,
format. Huh?
right
Oh,
behind you.
oh. Thank you. Woo! We're painting her. Woo! So you can see that this paper being heavy is very important to the ability. That's Twix.
You just
We've
scared
got
the
a.
dog with the paper.
I scared our dog with the paper. This is a professional show. Can you tell? I love Facebook. It's so relaxing. But this may eventually end up on YouTube a few weeks later, because sometimes we'll upload these for YouTube on the horizontal format. All right. You ready to kind of jump on in, guys?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So here I have my trace, right? My transfer image. I freehand these out on tracing paper and then I ink them when I'm ready to do them. There's a bunch of reasons why this is beneficial. One reason that this is super beneficial is that, oh, I got a picture. One reason that this is super beneficial is that if I wanted to change colors, if I wanted to visit this design again and again and again, I could do that really easily. To get it to transfer onto your paper, you come on the back and you rub it with a little graphite pencil. So you go rub, 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 rub.
Hmm.
You tape it down, and then you draw over all the lines, and it transfers them to the paper. Now, I think it's a good idea to have just a little bit of an eraser by the white kind and make sure that's clean so it's not like making little smudgies for you. Sometimes I find it's hard to get rid of the little eraser dust, so I just use a brush to get them off. Right. And that lets me clean up anything that I don't want. I also have my Tombow ABT pencil here. So this has got a brush nib, pen, and this has a nice chisel nib. And I really like these. They work really well over the watercolor paper. I've got my pencils for all of that. And I have, in this particular case, my core mini set. But the part that's important for you is to realize that you can use any colors you have. I'm going to be using the ones that are in the set, which is, I think it's Cad Primrose Light, which is just basically Cad Light, Nickel Azo Yellow, which is a yellow deep. I've got Transparent Peril Orange. That'd be like a Cad Red Light, right? Or a Naphtha Red Light. I've got Peril Red Medium. That'd be like a Cad Red Medium or a Naphtha Red Medium. You're kind of getting how it goes. These like light reds, warm reds, cool reds, all that. I've got quinacridone, I got Dog's Purple, I got ultramarine blue, phthalo blue. Also in this is sap green, transparent brown oxide, and burnt umber and Payne's gray. But I'm probably going to be staying in the bright colors. I'm trying to make a very rainbowy, splashy thing. Let's just hop on in. I'm going to get my nice big brush. This is my 3/4 oval. This is a nice, beautiful brush. This is Black Velvet by Silver Brush. I'm gonna dip in my clean water. I'm gonna take off maybe an extra drop. I really want this brush loaded. So in watercolor brushes, this belly, this holds a lot of water like a sponge. And it lets me go into my water and carry it over here and put out the exact right amount of water. So a well-engineered watercolor brush, right? I'm just gonna get this pre-wet first so I can have some splashy, splashy fun as you'd want. Pre-wet for some splashy, splashy fun. This is actually probably gonna be mostly blooming. And I want it wet enough to see sheen on the paper, like it's a little bit shiny, but it's not running away and wrinkling up the paper. That's the amount of water that I want. Mm?
Yeah, we can just barely see the sheen on there.
Barely see it. And I'm gonna start with I think I'm gonna go with my yellow deep because I really like this color. And I'm just gonna come here and just touch this.
Oh yeah.
And what you're gonna see is you're gonna see this just travel through the water very flowy and happy, and it just brings its little pigment anywhere I put my water. This is going to want to kind of travel out. And it's interesting how you can see it goes like along the line of the hat. And I can take my number 8 round. This is a number 8 round. And I can take that and move this around. You could do a number 6 or other sizes of rounds too, just so you know. It's much less specific here. This is more about me trying to find my paint. I'm moving a little bit of the yellow down the mid brim of the hat. I'm going to rinse out and I'm going to grab some phthalo blue. And the reason I'm grabbing my phthalo is that where these two meet, they're going to actually mix on the paper and kind of even make a green.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
So it's almost like painting in primaries. And where I get some darker pigment, it will be darker and you can see it blooming out. This effect is called blooming. Some watercolors do it more than others, but you must have a damp paper to get it. And you can see here where I'm going along the back of the hat, it creates a hard edge. Let's rinse again, get a little more of our phthalo and just come here and make sure we're having some fun, right?
Oh, push the wrong button.
What'd you do?
I pushed the record button, and so that camera went, "You don't have a memory card."
Oh, okay.
And so everybody got to say my error where it said, "No memory."
No memory. We don't know what you're doing. No way, dude. Now, if I want an even more green, I can take my blue and my yellow together and even force some of this green. See how I'm
Oh,
doing?
yeah.
And so that can be kind of nice. And I just wander that along and play that some places. I'm going to come brush that on the front edge of the hat here. Only fun is being had by me with this. It's really good. Now, I'm going to go for my quinacridone. And the reason I'm going to work my quinacridone into this space is that it mixes well with the other colors that are here. Where they're drying, it won't bleed out as much. So you won't get as much travel where it's starting to be like slightly dry. And where it is dry, you won't get any travel at all. I can always take the quinacridone and a little of my
Oh,
blue
wow.
and darken those up if I want to. So I can always have some fun. Now I'm going to rinse out quite well. Can you hear this?
Oh,
When
yeah.
you're rinsing out a watercolor brush, this vigorous rinse gets all the pigment out. If I do a light rinse, it gets a small amount of pigment out. It's really interesting. If I were just to lightly go like this, a lot of the pigment gets held still in the belly. But by rinsing out vigorously, I can get it all out. I'm going to come here and I'm going to add a little water again because I want to come to my quinacridone and just make sure that I get a little bloom there as well. Felt
Yeah.
like it needed some. You know how we're doing?
Oh, yeah.
You can come along the hat band if you want to and define some of that. Every time you paint her, you can trace this and put this on so many sheets of paper and play with so many color stories and ways of painting these girls. It's completely enjoyable. I'm going to come along the back of the hat, I think, with the neck down and blend there. I think this will be nice later. Maybe trace along the top of the hat band, creating these little soft spaces. Now, I want this to be bone dry before I come put my shadows or anything underneath. So while I'm here, I'm going to give myself some fun times. And I'm going to go ahead and grab a little of my quinacridone. Right? And I'll put it over here because I want to have some control over how much pigment might end up in my brush. And I'm going to go ahead and add a little of my deep red to it. See how we're doing?
Mhm.
And it's just going to warm that up a lot. I'm going to rinse out and I'm going to just come to the lips and we're going to just paint this over the dry at first. This color right over this dry paper. See how we're doing?
Oh, yeah.
And it only goes where my brush goes because there's no water here, so it's not traveling. I know I'm explaining a lot of basic stuff, but if you haven't worked with this medium, it's so different than acrylic. I think it's important to know. It's like when you look at the small pan, you think, wow, there's hardly any paint there. You don't think, oh, there's 6 months of daily painting here.
Mhm.
When you see the tiny little 5-ounce tube, you don't think that's the same as your first size tube of acrylic paint. You don't think of it being the same size painting. You just go, how is this little thing $10? And my tube of paint this big is $10, but they're actually the same in the amount of paintings that they make. It's just there's weird things you might not know when you're starting out. And so I just want to be able to describe those things to you. I'm going to continue to glaze. This is when you paint over lighter paint, you're glazing. And I'm going to keep that focus, I think, darker up here. Yeah, we're doing?
Oh yeah.
Maybe darker up here. Darker up here. And I use the tip of my brush to get a nice line. I'm enjoying it. Now I'm going to dip in water. Remember how I said if you don't vigorously rinse out,
Yeah.
you reduce the amount of pigment that's in your brush. But you keep some. And that is how I lighten my color in watercolor. I'm going to lighten my color in my watercolor. I'm just painting that in. Now I know I'm going to want it to be darker where the lips join. I'm going to go ahead and let that bleed a little bit right here, and that'll soften. Going to go again and do another little run of color. I'll come under her little lip here. And I'm just adding this pigment where the lips meet. And you
Oh,
can even come to the bottom of the lip and add some from this back side, and you're going to see that it softens through the lip. And the trick's going to be, I'm going to get a little water on my brush, and then I'm going to come to the center, and I'm going to do a lifting method. I'm lifting the color,
yeah.
lightening her lip in the center. And I can always come back with a little more water and a little more pigment and darken it. Look at that. Even bring a little bit down there and shape the lip more if I want to. Then just pout it out.
Yeah.
Pout it out.
It's all
Sip my
pouted in.
coffee. Pout it out.
Now, I have to say, I really enjoy these Facebook shows because we get to see a lot of our friends over here, and there's some folks that we haven't seen. You know, I saw Chris and Ona and Renee and Donna's been out there and Mark's been out there and Stephanie's been out there and all of our friends, and it's just really cool. You know, but CPG was just came by.
Chris!
I know, so we haven't seen
Is
him.
he still there, Chris?
Yeah, he's out there hanging
Hi,
out.
Chris. How are you?
So,
How
Cinnamon
are
can't see
you?
the
We
chat,
think about
guys.
you all the time. I'm sorry we didn't do VidCon this year, but we think about you all the time.
Yep. Yep. So we got lots of friends out visiting us. This is really great. And, we don't let Cinnamon see the chat because she gets
I
distracted.
stopped teaching art.
She does. We talk and just,
Totally stop and wander around.
it's sort of like me going out there and teaching art. I just sort of stumble around and
No, he did really good his last class. I don't know if you guys saw this, but John did a painting, his first
I,
painting. He did it live. So that was pretty fun. I'm wetting the area that's going to have our headband. And I'm just going to grab, you know how I added a little blue
yeah.
to my quinacridone over there? I'm just going to
Oh,
grab a
oh,
little of that and let it bleed out.
you just,
It just goes. Oh, you can't wait to, you can't believe how much fun we're going to have when we do some splashing. Now, the other place I'm going to rinse out vigorously.
okay.
The other place that I'm going to add a little bit of water is right under the nose. And I'm going to make a little teardrop because I want to create a shadow under her nose. That's going to go like, with where we're inking. And then I'm also going to come right under the hat here. And I'm going to create an eyeshadow. And it's going to join in. And I'm going water first. You know I like to give me some bleed. Now, what's an interesting thing? If this has been dry and I add wet here, look, it relifts. That's another difference between watercolor and acrylic is I can soften this line and make it less hard if I feel
Oh,
like it. If I felt like it. Then I'm going to just let a nice little washy bit of joy happen there. If I have too much of a roll, too much water that's beading at the edge, I just pick it up with my brush. I don't stress on it. I could, but I don't. Now down here, I'm going to go ahead and add a bunch of water because we have this wonderful yellow shirt. You could do a different color shirt if yellow is not your favorite, right? You'd be like, yellow's not my favorite. Go a different color. This is your painting. I'm going to get a bunch of this yellow though and just enjoy painting that in. Soft little yellowness in her yellow shirt. Be like, more yellow. All the yellow you want, man. Yellow it up. All right. So, see how we're doing? Just wonderful.
oh yeah.
Now here's a fun thing. I'm gonna get some clean water, and I'm gonna do a fun thing. I'm gonna put a bunch of drops of it right here. See how we're doing?
Yeah.
Clean, clean, clean. I'll take it right up to the hat. Take it to the hat. This'll be the funnest part of your project, and if you haven't done this with kids, small people, or yourself, you really should. I'm gonna extend my straw and bend it enough at an angle. Okay, so that's the splashy went far. I may even come back and make sure that there's lots of water traveling along this little splashy. You can come and make little tendrils anywhere you want. Make it go as far as you want. Any splash is a good splash, right? Because we're just talking about making these fun splashy bits with our straw.
You got some splashy template there with water.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take maybe some of this blue and green and watch this. I'm going to come to this tendril. You zoomed in, John?
I'm gonna zoom in even more. There you go.
You ready?
Yeah. Oh,
Could it be more fun? I suppose it could, but I don't know how.
yeah. That's really cool. I'm just sort of like quietly watching to make sure I don't miss any of the controls. So it's like,
I know it's just one of those things, and I can pull this through there. Now, if you have too much water anywhere, you just wipe your brush off on a towel and come back and look. It just pulls it into the brush, doesn't it?
oh wow.
So I'm never really that out of control in my watercolor, even though it can feel like I am from time to time. I'm not. Anything I feel like I need to have going on here, I can have it going on. So that's a straw one, right? Now I can come right here and add a little body splash. And this one, I can actually come out and just paint one out, right? If I don't enjoy the straw method, if it's not fun for me, I am not obligated or trapped. Maybe this one, I'll do something different this time. I'll go yellow first and I'll come to the ends of these and just allow the yellow to blend in. And honestly, I'm very relaxedly painting through here. I'm not rushing at all. I'm going to get that Peril red medium, which is like your CAD red medium, your naphtha red medium. And I'm going to just allow that to blend back a couple of spots. So we've that nice mix of those two. And anywhere I want to pull up water, I can do that without difficulty. Without any difficulty at all. All right, last one. Let's go pink and blue on this one. So I'm going to leave a little space above my shirt because I don't want this to blend into the shirt. And I'm going to make it feel like it's a splash like this. If you've been with me a long time and you saw any of the stuff we did in the space or any of the splashing animals, there's a bunch of kids tutorials based on this technique
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the
that,
fish and the dog.
yeah, that they will just love, 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 love. All right, let's get a little quinacridone. Let's start putting that in there.
You're just using that one brush here, right?
Yeah, just you know what? You generally just need a few brushes in watercolor. Again, you got to think of the watercolor materials in completely different terms when you're figuring out your budget because this is never going to stop being a paintbrush for me.
Yeah.
I'm never going to use it in a way that it isn't good. My kids will probably get this brush from me. So I mean,
There
it's
you
super important.
go. I,
It's super important that you remember when you're looking at art materials going, I don't need as many tools, but I need better tools and calculate the number of paintings that you're doing when you're figuring out that budget. You actually have more room than you think. It's why a lot of people where watercolor is expensive is in the framing.
yeah.
That's the actual place that it's expensive. It seems expensive at the threshold when you're looking at a tiny tube of paint going wet, but you only need the smallest amount of paint. So, you know, got to keep that in mind. All right, I'm going to get some blue. I'm going to come back here and I'm going to just add this through here where I think it would be nice. I can come back and get a bunch of quinacridone and add that through there. See? Purpling it up.
Now, why do you pre-wet some areas but not others?
Well, if I want a soft blend, if I want it to have soft edges, right? Like if you look here where this was dry, there's a hard edge. If it's dry, there's a hard edge. But where it's not dry, where it's wet, then there's these soft, blendy, bloomy edges. And it's just really about me wanting to enjoy. I'm going to get some of my blue and a little of my Payne's gray right here.
So when you pre-wet it, you get that bloom, but if you don't, then you have more control.
Yeah, some of that right there.
And so
All
like,
right. I've mixed a little blue and Payne's gray and I'm going to come right under my hat.
okay.
And I'm going to define another line of shadow
Oh, and so you didn't pre-wet that, so you had a lot of control.
for a lot of control on this edge there.
That made a
But
nice
if
little.
it's wet at all, see what it does? It starts to move into it.
Oh yeah.
And that's what you're really playing with, right? Now I'm going to come here and I'm going to just let this blend in here because I don't mind it being soft into this space. And I wanted this underneath of the hat to be cool. I'm going to take a little of my quinacridone and uh, phthalo to make a great purple. I guess I could be using diox, but I just keep mixing it. And I just want under my hat to be this color. But this time I'll come and I'm not just wetting with a clear water because I know I want blue, purple over here, and I can just come and get some blue and make sure that that inside of the hat is quite cool. Because the depth of the hat should be quite cool. I love the sound of the rain when it's not storming enough to take out our broadcasts.
I know. I was just gonna say we got a little storm going.
Okay. So that is everything I need to do before the inking. Now, to ink, I've got to have this be dry.
Oh yeah.
And to dry it for the show, I'm going to pull up the deep puddles of water because I'm going to use the hair dryer.
Oh, and that will spread it.
Well, it'll pull. So if I were to just hair dry while it's still very, very puddly wet, the hair dryer is going to move this water all over the place. That's fine if you want it and not great if you don't. And since in this case, I'm trying to teach a lesson, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the extra water. Normally, you would just allow this to have a nice little rest and dry until it felt like it was done, right? But since we've got this going, we're going to go ahead and speed that journey along, right?
We're gonna use some technology to assist us.
We're going to use some technology and some techniques to assist the speed of our dry. But this is also a good demo of how color will lift up into your brush. All right, let's come over and get the yellow over here because that looks a little puddly. Now, I am getting away with a lot on this because I love my core, I love my Holbein, I love my Daniel Smith, I love my Schmicke, I love my watercolors, and the ones that I love, the reason I love them is they just have a ton of pigment in the paint, and they're just super awesomey, wonderful performances. So that's why I pick the ones that I use, but you can do these with what you have and you can upgrade over time. And again, hopefully we're going to be rethinking how we think about our expense in watercolors, realizing that they go so long and the consumable part is the paper.
Yep.
That's the part you go through really quickly, but the paints are with you a long time. I just they just last long. I don't know how watercolor companies stay in business because the paints last a long time. All right, I'm gonna dry this.
Okay, you try that. I'm gonna go push that button, and maybe they can't hear you, but they can see what you're doing. And I'm going to say probably best practices apply. Keep your hair dryer set on the lowest heat setting, just to make sure that you're moving air across it. Heat generally can induce color shift and other problems. I don't know if it affects watercolors quite the same way, but I would say that heat, just as my experience has been, not an ideal thing. Um, so keep them on the lowest heat setting. Just move air over that. You can check in the link in the description down below, probably, to find our website, TheArtSherpa.com. And there's a whole bunch of really cool information that we got going on out there. You can find information about this project and other like it. Projects like it.
All right, I'm gonna put this under my hand. I'm gonna move this out of the way. I'm gonna come back and splash as my last thing.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah,
I,
absolutely.
I told them not to use heat on watercolors. Now I don't know if that's true. No, just air, right?
So, watercolors, you can use no, you're fine. It doesn't really matter. They're not as affected by color shift in the way that acrylic is. They're not as thermally
Hmm.
affected
Yeah.
as far as I'm aware. Um, they do color shift, but how they color shift is that they lighten. This becomes hypercritical when you're doing skin tone.
Gotcha. Oh, okay. Good to know.
So if you're trying to do a richer, darker skin tone, be aware that your watercolor can lighten on you 2, 3, 4 shades, depending on the brand. That's where they color shift is going from darker to lighter. And then if you do, it's weird if you do white watercolor over watercolor, it darkens. So there's some weird color shift in there, but the temperature is not as big of a deal
Did you
for the
just grab
paint
my
strength.
color card as your
Yeah,
bridge?
I did.
All right.
So I'm putting this under my hand so I'm not dragging ink.
Let me go up here and see.
And I'm gonna use the brush nib on my little Tombow here. I think actually in the description I have my Pit pens, which is my big they're my pocket wallet size because they match the travel size of the watercolor. But same thing. One or the other, they're fairly interchangeable for the purposes of what we're doing here. I find I have a tendency to drag ink and not have as steady of a hand as I could. So this is just my little personal life hack that I use to keep myself together. I'm just making these little marks to imply shadow. If you did the gnome, you're sort of familiar with what I'm doing there. Now, I'm not going to line the splash at all. If I get this pen into a wet area, it is really going to be damaging to it. And how you can tell if there's a wet area is if it's shiny. So I'm going to avoid anything shiny. Pretty hardcore. Here on the hair.
See, now I got the Moana song in my head.
You? You're welcome
Shiny.
one?
The crab who's all shiny.
Oh, I love him. I don't know. I don't think he should have been a villain. I think he was wonderful. All right, I'm gonna come along the top of the hat.
He was just being his shiny self.
He
Yeah.
was living his best life. Ink there. And you can see the inking creates a different little dimension in my project, right?
It does.
Now, I'm gonna kind of flip it around because again, gotta get my best angle. Don't move your canvas, not yourself. I'm gonna ink under the nose. I like this little spot between the lips. I'm gonna definitely ink that. Interesting doing it upside down. Sure there are micro adjustments that I should be making that I'm not. But, you know, purposes of what we're doing. Come along the jawline. I like brush nibs because they let you do thick and thin fairly easily is really what the attraction is for me. Now, where I have a splash, I'm going to take a line, but I'm going to break it where the splash would.
Oh, neat. I didn't think about that. I would have just gone right on through.
So that's the thing. I'm not.
And then I would have looked at it later and gone, man.
This is my most awkwarding position for inking,
Oh, yeah?
but I've got camera concerns,
Oh, no,
so
you can move around. I got RoboCam on you.
oh, okay, thank goodness. Oh
See,
my
look,
god.
I have this camera above. You can just
Oh,
move.
it's making me crazy, babe. I'm
Okay, you can
like,
just go wherever you want. See, look, you go there, and then RoboCam will go, where are you going to be at? I'm going to follow you.
okay. So with a brush nib, you press harder, it thickens. You press lighter, it lightens, and that's how it sort of works. And it can give you a lot of performance in one tool. The pit ones that I have listed there are also, like this. They have a brush, and then I'll make sure that I add the Tombow. Either one's good, though. Generally, what I would say is what you see on sale. You just wanna make sure that these are light fast, that they're waterproof, and I like to sometimes test paper ahead of time and make sure that I'm gonna just curve some little hairlines here just to imply that her little hair is gathered. And then we're gonna come here. And I think that's all I'd have because the splash would cover it. So once I have that, if I want my splashes around the paper, because I added
Wow,
those after the ink.
that just like it's pow.
Where did I put
It just
the ink?
powed together.
Yeah, it just comes together,
That was
and
awesome.
I'm gonna bring my little thing out, and I'm gonna try to do a controlled splash. Sometimes if I do the wax splashing, it gets a little crazy on me.
Controlled splash. I'm interested in this
So I'm gonna see. I'm wondering what I have. My this isn't ideal for this.
because it's too
Ugh,
stiff.
it's too stiff. It's too big. So I'm gonna see if I can use. This is like a Monzum. It's just a. Might be able to use even my fan. Oh, I'm gonna be able to use my fan. All right, I'm gonna get my fan wet, and I'm gonna get some wet little paint on it.
Show me where you're gonna go so I can get
I'm gonna
zooming.
go right here. Yep, there we go.
Oh,
Fan is great. Look at that.
oh yeah. You just
This
barely.
is a Monza fan, but no endangered animal was remotely used
This is
in the.
synthetic, yeah.
Yeah, it's totally synthetic. It's there is no animal hurt or crushed or killed. And I like this actually because it's giving me some more control over where my splashes go.
Yeah, I'm into the synthetics
So
myself.
there we go. That's pretty splashy. I think I'll put a little splashy down on her shirt. I'll get some red into that one. And just a little splashy. I'm just making little splashes.
Splash, 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 splash.
Once I have a little enough splashing where I feel happy, I'll get a detail brush. I could probably sign it with my number 8, but I'm just gonna get detail. I'll go ahead here and
You're gonna Sherpa it.
yeah, I'm not sure about it. There we go. Now, my brushes, I mean, sometimes brushes will say for watercolor. I love my brushes. They are not designed for watercolor. That is not what they're made for. They don't have a belly, they don't hold the water, they don't do that. So these really are for acrylics, but the reason you'll see a lot of brushes listed as multimedia is because they'll do what you saw here. I, in general, don't mix up my acrylic and my watercolor brushes. One, because watercolor brushes are too soft, and also because acrylic is damaging to watercolor brushes. But if you're going to take your signature brush that you have in your acrylic cup and use it to sign something, it's not gonna hurt you.
Yep.
Now, you've done it.
That's amazing.
I am pumped for next week. We're going to do another one like this. These are more involved talking lessons that we're doing on Facebook. If you're loving the watercolor, please. Yeah, I think we're going to be uploading lesson 15 today on Instagram on IGTV. So we're definitely putting these out. The ones on Facebook will, in a delayed response, maybe hit YouTube. So, hey, YouTube, if you just got your lesson, um, and the idea is that water media is interchangeable. Acrylics and watercolors have a cool way that they work together. Got a bunch of stuff on that. Be fun, be playful. Realize that sometimes it's good to change things up in your creative practice and in your life. Pick yourselves and be good to each other. And I want to see you, Easel, in the studio really soon.